Your soulmate was caught crying about your age last night, they told their friend. My beloved child. Last night, your soulmate was caught crying about your age, but the tears were not coming from the reason everyone would assume. They were sitting with one trusted friend, trying to act normal, when your name suddenly entered the conversation. At first, they laughed softly and changed the subject. Then their friend asked one simple question: why are you so afraid of what you feel? That was when everything changed. Your soulmate looked down, went completely silent, and whispered something about the difference in age between you. Their friend expected them to say it bothered them. Instead, your soulmate covered their face as tears began falling. What they admitted next revealed that the number itself was never the real problem. Something much deeper had been haunting them, and it had everything to do with how much time they believed they may have already wasted. Their friend moved closer and asked, if the age difference doesn't change how you feel, then why are you crying? Your soulmate hesitated before finally confessing, because I keep thinking about everything we could lose by waiting. Those words exposed the fear they had been hiding behind excuses. They had worried about what relatives might say, whether friends would understand, and whether people would judge a connection they had never taken the time to understand. But lately, another thought had become stronger than all of those fears: what if they allowed other people's opinions to steal something genuine from them? Don't skip, because this is where their confession became even more revealing. Your soulmate admitted that whenever they imagined walking away from you simply because of age, they didn't feel relieved. They felt empty. And their friend immediately noticed something your soulmate had been refusing to admit. The friend looked directly at them and said, "You're not crying because of their age. You're crying because you already know how important they are to you." Your soulmate froze. No argument. No denial. Just silence, and then even more tears. They admitted they had tried to convince themselves that being practical meant creating distance, but every attempt only made their feelings clearer. Then they said something their friend never expected: "What scares me isn't the years between us. What scares me is waking up years from now and realizing I let the right person go because I was afraid of being judged." But that still wasn't the entire confession. Their friend asked what they planned to do now, and your soulmate revealed that they had already been considering one specific decision involving you. They had almost acted on it before this conversation, but fear stopped them. Last night changed that. And before they left, they told their friend exactly what they wanted to say to you when they finally stopped running from this connection. The words your soulmate wanted to say to you were not rehearsed, polished, or carefully planned. They came from the part of them that had finally grown tired of hiding. Still sitting beside their friend, they wiped their eyes and whispered, "I need them to know I never saw their age before I saw who they were." Then they paused, because even saying that aloud made everything feel more real. They confessed that what drew them toward you had nothing to do with numbers or expectations. It was the way you made them feel understood without forcing explanations. The way your presence stayed in their mind after conversations ended. The strange calm they felt whenever they imagined being completely honest with you. But there was one question they couldn't escape. What if you had already mistaken their hesitation for rejection? That possibility frightened them more than they admitted at first. Their friend asked whether they had ever given you a reason to believe the age difference embarrassed them, and your soulmate's expression changed immediately. They remembered certain moments when they pulled away without explaining why. Moments when they became unusually quiet after someone mentioned age, timing, or what a relationship was supposed to look like. From your side, that distance may have appeared cold. From theirs, it was panic. They were trying to protect themselves from judgment while accidentally making you feel like you were the problem. And when their friend pointed this out, your soulmate whispered, "What if I made them question their worth because I couldn't handle my own fear?" That was the moment their tears returned, because suddenly they understood the damage silence can create. But their friend refused to let them disappear into regret. "Then stop making them guess," they said. "Tell them what was actually happening." Your soulmate stared at their phone. Your name was there, closer than the courage required to reach you. For several seconds, their thumb hovered over the screen. They wanted to explain everything. The outside pressure, the fear of being misunderstood, and especially the truth that your age had never made their feelings smaller. Stay till the end, because they nearly sent you something right there. They typed a message, erased it, typed another, and then suddenly stopped when their friend noticed one sentence on the screen. It wasn't an apology. It wasn't goodbye. It was something far more revealing. "If I told you why your age really makes me emotional, you would finally understand why I've been so afraid to lose you," and what they wrote immediately after that sentence changed the entire meaning of those tears. What they wrote next was the truth they had been afraid to put into words. "Your age makes me emotional because it reminds me that time is real, and I don't want to waste any more of it pretending you don't matter to me." Their friend read the sentence and immediately became quiet. Suddenly, those tears made sense. Your soulmate wasn't sitting there calculating years between you. They were thinking about years ahead of you. They had spent so much time worrying about whether this connection looked acceptable from the outside that they had ignored the question that mattered most: how does it actually feel when it's just the two of you? And whenever they answered that honestly, fear was no longer the strongest emotion. The strongest emotion was the thought of losing you before they ever gave this connection a real chance. Then their friend asked something that caught them completely off guard. "Are you afraid of the age difference, or are you afraid they'll eventually choose someone who seems easier?" Your soulmate didn't answer immediately. That silence revealed another hidden layer. Deep down, they had been comparing themselves to imaginary people who might fit your life more neatly, someone closer to what others expected, someone who wouldn't attract questions, someone who wouldn't make them feel as vulnerable. But there was a painful contradiction. Every time they imagined you with that imaginary person, jealousy wasn't even the first emotion. Regret was. They pictured themselves watching from a distance, knowing they had feelings for you but never had enough courage to speak clearly. That was when they told their friend, "I could survive people judging us. I don't know if I could forgive myself for losing them because I listened to everyone except my own heart." Their friend looked at the unfinished message and told them not to send anything until they were ready to stand behind every word. That advice changed your soulmate's expression. Instead of immediately reaching for the phone again, they began talking about what they would actually do if you gave them one honest conversation. They didn't want to overwhelm you with dramatic promises. They wanted to explain why they pulled away, admit where fear had controlled them, and finally ask the question they had avoided for far too long: did you ever feel this connection as deeply as they did? But something happened before the conversation ended. Your soulmate suddenly remembered a specific moment between you, something you once said or did that they had misunderstood completely. They turned toward their friend and said, "Wait, what if they were trying to tell me how they felt that entire time?" And when they explained that forgotten moment, their friend realized your soulmate might have missed a sign that changes everything. That forgotten moment suddenly became impossible for your soulmate to ignore. They remembered a conversation when you had said something simple about not caring what other people thought when a connection felt genuine. At the time, your soulmate brushed it off as a casual remark. Last night, however, they replayed your expression, your timing, and the strange silence that followed. Their friend listened carefully and asked, "Are you sure they weren't giving you permission to be honest?" Your soulmate's eyes widened. For months, they had assumed you noticed the age difference and quietly considered it a problem too. But what if you had actually been telling them the opposite? What if they had spent all this time protecting themselves from a rejection that never existed? That possibility hit them harder than anything else, because suddenly the distance between you looked less like fate and more like a misunderstanding neither of you had been brave enough to break. Their friend began asking about other moments, and one by one, your soulmate remembered details they had buried. The way you stayed longer than necessary during certain conversations. The way your voice softened whenever something personal came up. The questions you asked about their future that seemed ordinary then but felt completely different now. Your soulmate admitted they had noticed those things, but whenever hope appeared, fear immediately talked them out of believing it. "I kept telling myself I was imagining everything," they confessed. "Maybe I needed to believe that because admitting they cared would mean I had to make a decision." Their friend understood immediately. Your soulmate hadn't been running from your age. They had been running from the responsibility of choosing what they truly wanted despite outside opinions. And now that realization left them facing a much harder question: had they waited so long that your feelings might already have changed? That question stayed with them as they picked up their phone again. This time, they didn't immediately start typing. They opened your conversation and quietly stared at the last exchange between you, reading it differently than before. Something in your words suddenly stood out, a small detail they had overlooked because fear had shaped the way they interpreted everything. Their friend noticed the change in their face and asked what they had found. Your soulmate read the message again, slowly, then whispered, "I think they were waiting for me to say something." But instead of sending the emotional confession they had written earlier, they made a surprising decision. They deleted the entire draft. Their friend thought fear had won again, until your soulmate said, "No. This deserves more than a message." Then they revealed exactly how they wanted to approach you. And why they believed one question needed to be answered face to face before anything between you could move forward. Your soulmate told their friend they wanted to see your face when they finally asked the question that had been haunting them: "Did my fear ever make you believe I didn't want you?" They knew a text could never carry everything behind those words. They wanted you to hear the hesitation in their voice and understand that the distance was never about being ashamed of you. Their friend warned them that your answer might hurt, especially if you admitted their mixed signals had pushed you away. Your soulmate nodded and said, "I'd rather hear an uncomfortable truth than keep hiding inside assumptions." That was different. For the first time, they weren't searching for another excuse. They were preparing themselves to hear your side of the story, even if it revealed that their silence had affected you more deeply than they realized. Then their friend asked what they would say if you admitted you had worried about the age difference too. Your soulmate thought carefully before answering. I'd ask whether it's truly our concern, or whether we're carrying everyone else's opinions. That distinction mattered. They had finally recognized how many of their fears began with imaginary conversations: what family might think, what friends might whisper, what strangers might assume. Yet none of those people had experienced the private connection between you. None had witnessed the moments that kept replaying in your soulmate's mind. And suddenly they remembered one particular moment when you looked at them differently after age came up in conversation. They had assumed your expression meant discomfort. Now they wondered whether it was actually disappointment because they had immediately pulled away. Their friend asked, "What happened right after that?" Your soulmate went silent, because the answer exposed another mistake they hadn't noticed until last night. They remembered that you tried to continue the conversation, but they changed the subject. You gave them another opening, and they became distant. Looking back, your soulmate realized you may have been waiting for reassurance while they were waiting for reassurance from you. Two people standing emotionally close, each afraid to move first. That realization brought tears to their eyes again, but this time something stronger appeared underneath the sadness: urgency. Not reckless urgency. Clarity. They told their friend, "I don't want another year to pass with both of us wondering what the other person meant." Then they made a decision. They would contact you, but before confessing everything, they wanted to mention that specific memory and see whether you remembered it too. Their friend agreed. Until your soulmate suddenly revealed there was another reason your age had affected them so deeply, something they hadn't told anyone before. And when they finally began explaining it, even their friend wasn't prepared for what they heard. The reason was tied to something your soulmate had quietly carried for years: a fear of arriving too late to the life they actually wanted. They told their friend that meeting you had forced them to notice how often they postponed happiness because the timing wasn't perfect, circumstances weren't simple, or someone else might disapprove. Your age became emotional to them because it represented something larger than a number. It reminded them that neither of you could keep treating time like an unlimited resource. "I kept thinking there would always be a better moment to tell them," they admitted. But what if the better moment was months ago? What if it was the first time I realized I cared? Their friend didn't interrupt. Your soulmate was finally admitting that the tears came from regret over hesitation, not regret over loving someone whose age challenged their expectations. Then came an even more vulnerable confession. Your soulmate said they had secretly imagined ordinary moments with you. Not some impossible fantasy, but quiet mornings, long conversations, disagreements that ended in understanding, and years where both of you could simply stop wondering what might have happened. That frightened them because those thoughts felt serious. Suddenly, this wasn't a passing attraction they could dismiss whenever outside pressure became uncomfortable. You had become connected to their picture of the future. Their friend asked, "So why did you keep focusing on age?" Your soulmate answered, "Because a number was easier to blame than admitting I could actually lose someone I love." The word slipped out naturally. Love. Your soulmate immediately stopped talking. Their friend stared at them, realizing what had just happened. And for several seconds, neither of them said anything. Your soulmate tried to correct themselves, but their friend wouldn't let the moment disappear. "You heard what you just said, right?" they asked. Your soulmate looked away, overwhelmed, then gave the smallest nod. That single word had revealed more than everything they had explained all night. They weren't merely worried about whether a connection could work. They were terrified because their feelings had already crossed a line they had refused to name. And suddenly, the question they planned to ask you face to face seemed incomplete. Their friend told them, if you're going to speak to them, don't only explain your fear. Tell them what the fear was protecting. Your soulmate stared at your name on the screen again, knowing exactly what that meant. But before reaching out, they admitted there was still one thing stopping them, a secret concern about your future that made them wonder whether loving you might eventually require them to make a sacrifice they had never told you about. That sacrifice had nothing to do with walking away from you. It was almost the opposite. Your soulmate admitted they had been wondering whether truly choosing you would require them to let go of the life other people had planned for them. Certain expectations had followed them for years: who they should be with, what the relationship should look like, when everything should happen. The age difference made those expectations louder, but last night they finally questioned why strangers to this connection deserved so much influence over it. Their friend asked, if nobody else had an opinion, would you still be afraid? Your soulmate stared at the floor for several seconds before answering, no. That single word changed the conversation. Because if the fear disappeared whenever everyone else disappeared from the picture, then perhaps the real obstacle had never been you at all. But another concern remained. Your soulmate worried that choosing this connection might place pressure on your future. They didn't want you making important life decisions simply to prove your feelings were real. They wanted to know what you genuinely wanted, without guilt, fear, or promises made in an emotional moment. Their friend surprised them by saying, then stop deciding for them. Give them the truth and let them choose for themselves. Your soulmate looked up immediately. That was exactly what they had been doing without realizing it. Predicting your answer, predicting your fears, even predicting what would supposedly be best for you. By trying to protect you from a difficult choice, they had taken away your opportunity to make one. And suddenly they understood why one honest conversation mattered more than every imaginary scenario they had created. That realization gave them the courage to do something they had avoided all night. They opened your conversation again, but this time they didn't write a long confession. They typed one simple message asking whether the two of you could talk privately when you were comfortable. Their finger hovered above the send button while their friend remained completely silent. Your soulmate took one deep breath and whispered, if I keep waiting for certainty, I'll wait forever. Then they pressed send. For a moment, nothing happened. They placed the phone down, almost afraid to look at it. Seconds later, the screen lit up. Your soulmate grabbed it immediately, expecting your name, but the notification wasn't your reply. It was something completely unexpected, connected to you, and whatever they saw made them turn toward their friend and say, you're not going to believe what just happened.